Dream collaboration, alive or dead, who would you want to play with?
McCoy Tyner.
Favorite improviser?
Chris Potter.
Here's a practical one. If you can demo this, your favorite thing to play on an altered dominant chord?
Oh, yeah. I love this. It's more of a... So I have this. It's this. I love that lick.
Ooh. I love that. I'm Quentin Angus, and this is Good Company. Each episode, I speak to an artist about their craft and the stories that make them who they are. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with Richard Peña, a Puerto Rican-based guitarist and composer who blends Afro-Caribbean traditions with jazz. Richard, welcome.
Lucky to be here, man. Loving the vibe, loving the energy, and we're going to have a great time, great conversations.
For our listeners, here's how the show is going to work. I'm going to start with some long-form questions, and then we're going to close out with some super fast rapid-fire questions, a signature of the show. And along the way, you'll not only hear Richard speak, but as you can see, he has his instruments, so you're going to hear him play as well. So let's dive right in. I want to go to the roots and how it all started. Can you talk about how you started playing guitar and some of your early influences?
Yeah, definitely. Man, I think I started as a kid, as most people do, right? Your parents put you in some sort of after-school program and whatnot. I do have to say that I did a lot of my musical learning in church environments. My parents are both Dominican Pentecostals, and so as a kid, growing up in church, they kind of made me play all sorts of instruments like guitar, bass, piano, drums. So I was always exposed from that. Not very good, I would say, for sure. But, they kind of make you play all those instruments. And I did start there. I remember because we did move a lot back and forth from Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, and Las Vegas, Nevada when I was a kid until we eventually settled in Puerto Rico. And once I got there, I went to those really cool after-school programs and had great teachers, but the learning really started when I went to the specialized high school called La Escuela Libre de Música in San Juan. It's basically, I like to tell people, it's like high school musical, but for like Latino kids. That might be one way of putting it. Yeah, and so it was like very, classically kind of oriented, classical-oriented kind of school. And I played classical guitar as a kid growing up, and it was like 12 until I was 18. And along the way, I had a really cool teacher who kind of introduced me to the concept of there's a seventh chord, there's a ninth chord, there's how about these jazz voicings. And, it was really interesting for me because as, if anybody who's ever studied classical, they teach you, very good technique, very good reading, interpretation, but the improvisational aspect of more than, just what's on the paper, and bring it to life is not something that's very highly focused on. So as a kid, it was like, oh, look at all these freedom I have. And long story short, what actually ended up happening was there was this really cool quartet. I think it was the only jazz group in high school called Guess Who Jazz Quartet. And their bass player just quit. It was a friend of mine. And so the drummer comes up to me and says, hey, our bass player just quit and we need someone to fill in the gap. I know, you've been wanting to play jazz. Do you want to do it? And I'm like, heck yeah, count me in. This is definitely an opportunity. Great. So we have a festival, jazz festival in Orlando, Florida in 2 weeks. We're going to be playing with Pauli Mejia. Mia Sanone's going to be doing something there and we're going to be performing before them. Do you want to go? Heck yeah. There was only one problem though. I had just discovered jazz. I didn't own a bass. I didn't even know how to play bass with a group of people I just met, going to a place I've never been, and I've never done a concert in my life before. That was my first official concert. Oh my God. Not even the student ones. So the pressure was incredibly high, right? I remember a friend of mine, Adriana, she loaned me her 4-string bass. And I was going to the bass player, the ex-bass player of the group. I was like, please teach me how to play these songs, man. Because like there's 15 songs, for someone who's never done a concert. It was just like, how do I even do this? And then I skipped school for like 2 weeks straight just to practice because I was so nervous for it. And eventually we got on the plane and we flew to the gig and I did a decent job, I think. I held it down. I told him, don't give me any solos, man. I don't even know how to do that. But that's how it all really started for me in jazz, right? Like that's what really got me in there. And though I was in that group for about 2 years, we've recorded an album called Ready for Departure. It won an award, the Fox USA Latin Music Awards, I think back in 2014.
The first recording you ever did?
First ever as a bass player. It's hilarious. You know, the other days, I think it was August 29th. I was celebrating. I was like, it's been 11 years since the record, right? Because we're in 2025. So it's funny because you see me with my hat. I don't have a beard. I'm all skinny and I have hair. And, you know, it's like, that's not even Richard. He's not even playing guitar. Who is this person? And, you know, eventually I kind of just moved on to grab the guitar again, but this time, you know, electric guitar. And I started this group called Young Roots Jazz Quartet. We went to Berkeley and competed at the Berkeley High School Jazz Festival back in 2015. We won fourth place. It was really cool. And basically from there, I went to study at the Conservatory of Music of Puerto Rico. And that's kind of like really where things started to really kind of just focus much more. And then, you know, from there, I just kind of decided to explore my music. You know, I recorded my first official album, like as a guitarist in 2018, released it, Hey Don Ray. And, you know, the history writes itself from there. But that's kind of my story, man. That's how it all started. I was a bass player. You know, I didn't even play guitar.
You started with the foundation, right? The foundation and built up.
Right. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. I don't know if I could play walking bass now, but or I can do all that stuff, but I definitely did at one point, or maybe I didn't. Maybe I just kind of winged it. You have to listen to the album and find out if you look for it.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna check that out. So let's fast forward to now. Can you demonstrate something on your guitar that is a current obsession? It could be like a song that you're obsessed with, or you know, some kind of exercise, or just anything at all that you're working on currently.
Yeah, well, I mean, recently, like 2 weeks ago, I recorded a new album, right? And that's coming out in March. And a lot of the music in this album was highly focused on me trying to figure out how to incorporate more bass lines and melody playing as a trio, right? In a trio format. So I had this really cool album that inspired a lot of the ideas. Obviously, you know, Chick Corea is such a master of writing, you know, composing this sort of ideas. And the album Past, Present, Futures with Abishai Cohen and Jeff Ballard, really just listening to tunes like Fingerprints or Rumba Flamenco kind of inspired some of these ideas. And I remember recently I've been working on a lot of stuff, you know, that has sort of these lines like... where you have the constant right there.
Sick.
Right, this. That sort of idea, right? And then I would always come across, so kind of like the open bells. I kind of like that idea, right? And I would also I've been working on things like... That's 7. Like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3. Right, and that sort of idea, right? And
the harmonies against that.
Yeah,
just that's so beautiful. Yeah,
and that sort of combining it with. I've been obsessed. I realized it recently because now we're like in the mixing process. I'm like, wow, I think half of the tunes that I wrote here are kind of like how do you say that in English? It's like three beats, like 3/4, 6/8, tertiary beats. That's what I'm thinking about. And I kind of realized that because I also have other things that I've been kind of thinking about recently, which is like, there's this one tune, there's this kind of like ideas like that.
Oh, wow.
So it's like a lot of like those ideas.
Yeah.
I love that sound. And anything that has to do with like minor seconds and that sort of, I've kind of been obsessed with that recently. And just kind of from a compositional aspect. I think from an improvisational thing, what I've been really trying to figure out is man, I envy piano players. They have two hands. They can comp and play lines. And so I've been kind of thinking about the classical, because I haven't played classical guitar in so many years. I've been really thinking about this sort of aspect.
Have you ever used a freeze pedal?
I've tried. I'm not very good at it.
Okay.
Right? And
But
so
I mean, because that could emulate the, right? Like you could hold some of those chords if you wanted. Yeah.
Maybe I should. Maybe I'll go grab one. Now I'm in Chicago currently on tour. So I might just go to the Chicago Music Exchange and grab one, actually. Uh-huh. But I've been obsessed with that. Like just that kind of very simple chordal voicing on the bottom and then notes on the top.
Yep. Yeah.
It kind of creates that idea, the illusion of, I don't know. That's my current obsession for sure. Just figuring that out.
Amazing. Next up, I want to talk about tone. You could talk about this any way you want. Like if there's ever been a guitar player you've been obsessed with and like searching their tone. So it could be like, transcription or gear or like, your own imagination or touch. Like what are some of the ways that you've thought about tone and developed? Because it's the first thing you hear, right?
Yeah.
The sound of the guitar player. Yeah.
I can't help but think of this really great Ron Carter quote. He says, "People bring their gear to the gig. I bring my sound."
Okay.
Right. And, or he said something like that. I might be, misquoting a little bit, but the fact that the sound we create, more than the notes, more than the voicings, more than just like the pure aesthetical sound that comes out of the guitar or the sax or the piano or whatever, is something that starts in your head, right? I always think about my guitar teacher from the conservatory, Fernando Medina, right? He's a really great guitarist and teacher, but I would find it so funny that he would, every semester would have a different guitar. Oh, check this out. I bought this D'Angelico, I don't know, whatever. And then I bought this Gibson, whatever. And then I bought this Telecaster and then this and this. And every single guitar he would play would sound exactly the same. So I'm like, yeah, can you hear the difference? I'm like, oh, not really, I was like, oh, what do you mean? I'm like, well, and then that was like, I realized in the moment, oh, he has such a strong sense of his tone that no matter what the guitar he grabs, it always sounds like him, right? That kind of like goes into the realm like jazz isn't an instrument, it's a sound, and there's this really cool video, you might have seen it. There's like Joe Pass playing a Telecaster or something, or Stratocaster or something like that, a really old video. I find it hilarious because the people in the comments like, man, no way, oh, you should play metal on that. And then one comment is always like, jazz isn't an instrument, it's a sound. And so tone for me comes from, you, right? Because even like, this isn't my guitar. For those of you who know I like playing Yamaha and I do have my heritage, but this is a borrowed guitar. It's like an Epiphone Dot. And I have a Blues Junior behind me. I usually use a Henriksen. And I lost my other pick, so I'm using another borrowed pick. But for me, I will always mess around with the touch until I find the sound that I want, right? So it's like...
So it's not like, for example, it's not the pick per se. It's like you working with whatever pick you happen to have to get the sound that you're thinking of, right?
Yeah. You have to have a clear image. It sounds kind of weird to say because it's like it sound is such an abstract thing, but you have to have a clear image of what you want your tone to be like. Because once you have that, then it's really easy to kind of mess around with whatever you have, And I say this, like really honestly, just it's not about the gear, I think. It's really just about the thing that you have in your mind. Now, that being said, I do think that certain gear can help you get to that goal more efficiently than other stuff, right? Like, for example, like there's like super giants that we think about when we think about tone. Like Pat Metheny is like, anywhere you listen to his playing, you're going to know his tone. Or Kurt Rosenwinkel, anywhere you hear his playing, you're going to hear his tone. And these are people who have developed such a specific sound and they use such a specific set of gear to achieve that sound. But again, it's still always the same thing, the thing that they have in their head. So for me, tone comes from within first. And it's definitely influenced by what music you listen to, right? Because if I listen to Wes Montgomery for 5 years straight, the idea I have of a jazz guitar tone is going to be Wes Montgomery, right? Versus if you listen to the more modern cats and you hear all these sorts of different ranges, you'll be like, oh, well, it could sound more like this and this and that. But that's my idea when it comes to tone. And then obviously I have my very specific way I think about tone, which for me usually is like a also, for example, I'll take this pick, right? And I'll use the edge of it because I like rounded edges, like really rounded, smooth edges, because I like emulating the sound of like your thumb, right? Because I'm a huge Wes Montgomery nerd. My string gauge is always usually 11 or 12, depending on the guitar that I have. Yeah, so this is like 11 Elixir.
Oh,
right?
wow.
So they're rounded. They're not flat wounds or anything.
Wait,
my
you
tone,
use Elixirs as well?
yeah, Elixirs.
I need to hook you up with them because I've been an endorsing artist for a while now, and I'm sure they would love to. Yeah. They're super sweet. They I'm gonna definitely. Yeah,
well,
I
dude,
didn't know that.
That's all I buy, like, because so I live in Puerto Rico, right? The humidity is such a string killer, right? I and trust me, it's not that I didn't try, but I remember the last time I ever used another pair of strings, I bought a Diodario, right? And I put them on, and next day, I kid you not, it hadn't even been 24 hours, it was already completely eroded. And no, man, I'm not going through this. So I only exclusively buy Elixir like Nano Web 0.11. 49. That is my set gauge. And it's because of where I live, right? Because, in Chicago, I could have used like Thematics or Ernie Ball or whatever. But like I'd gotten so used to the Elixir that, that's it for me. So the combination of why to use for my tone, I love the Hendrickson amps. The sound that they get is just beautiful. I use a Blue 6. I keep it pretty flat. I lower my bass tone a little bit. I do use the side of a pick, and I try to use picks that are very round-edged, right? Because it can be fat, but if it's sharp, then it doesn't make a difference. I use Elixir, and my tone is usually, depends on the guitar, really, right? Because some guitars are like, pickups are a little bit more brighter than others, or they pick up more, they're more sensitive. So I tend to have it anywhere between 4 and 7, in the knob. So that's where I kind of see my tone, if we were talking about like numbers and settings and all that sort of stuff.
Okay, so the next question, I want to hear about how Afro-Caribbean music has influenced your playing, but also if there's anything to share about, Puerto Rican music. You collaborated with me on a track on my upcoming album, and you mentioned that the comping was similar to a style of music called Hebrew music. So I would love to hear about any of that as well.
First of all, I think what you wrote was beautiful because it felt so natural to just kind of bring in that traditional Hebrew guitar playing. And that's why I asked you, remember when you emailed me, like, can I really do this on acoustic? Because it has that sound, like it's really there. And Afro-Caribbean, more specifically Afro-Puerto Rican music has been a huge part of, who I am and my identity, because not only because of the cultural aspect, because, you grow up listening to a certain type of music, right? Like I grew up listening to El Gran Combo, La Sonora Ponceña, or, like a lot of other plena, bomba, jibaro music, all this traditional Puerto Rican stuff. A lot of merengues too, because of like my bachata, because of my parents, and I was in Vegas, so I got to listen to a lot of like early rock. I don't know if you remember like Nickelback or Green Day or Evanescence, and even Paramore, right? Like, I mean, I wouldn't call them that rock. They're like a different subgenre, but it was really weird to kind of mix all that music, and jazz kind of came out of nowhere, right? But the Afro-Caribbean aspect of my composition and the way I think about melodies and everything is a huge part, because even the way, even sometimes I'll play jazz, right? Like if I do. So even if I do all these phrases, I will always occasionally do. Like you hear that a lot in Latin music, right? Like you hear a lot of this those little pull-offs because it's very common. So a lot of that comes out what I think about like lyricism, right? Because you hear it a lot in the salsa too. Mi querida gente, yeah, you hear that a lot of that phrasing. So I'll have my jazz vocabulary in there, but then when there's like this urge for me to go to that, right? Like, and then you hear the like the traditional triplet phrasing, which comes more from the jazz side, and so it's kind of like mixed together all the time, for when it comes down to the way I think about writing music, especially because I'm trying to explore what it even means to be like a Puerto Rican jazz guitarist. I don't know what that means. But I'm trying to figure it out, right? And I try to write music that is clave oriented, fuses a lot of bomba en plena. For example, the track we did, I think it was
Yeah.
Right? Like it's always in clave, right? And so the comping that I do there specifically is like a jíbaro pattern, right? And there's a very common thing called an aguinaldo jíbaro. It's a style of like poetry where you have 10 verses of 6 rhythms. So you have da 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 dee da 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 dee dee da da, and then you have the progression, which is you have all these.
I love how
phrasing.
beat one is just like
it doesn't exist.
Blurred,
1,
right? It's like
2,
it's
3, 4.
It brings the music to life, right? It like
that's what it is, right? And so when you have these tunes, for you wrote it and it was such an enclave tune. You might have not even realized it, but it was just like it was perfect for this style. And so like the just the way I interpreted your melody was completely from an Afro-Caribbean perspective, and I love that we were able to kind of create that feeling. But talking about like the way I comped on that was, it's not even like me, right? Like there's hundreds of years of people who play that guitar in traditional music, like there's Edwin Colon Sayas, who also plays guitar, the music of Mazo Rivera, Cristian Nieves, Modesto Nieves, his father, Neftali Ortiz, he plays both instruments. And so like there's just such a large history of people who, if I start putting names out there, like you guys listen to the records, you're going to hear some crazy guitar playing, which is like they're doing all this counterpoints because it's like Afro-Caribbean, but a lot of their technique is classical. So you're going to hear guys doing
Yeah.
Right? And so,
I remember learning
comping like that. And for me, that's crazy. It's like, how do you even think of all these bass lines, man? It's crazy.
No, totally.
I wish I could play like that, man. They're the best. I'm 28, right? So I'm just trying to really learn the history of all this. Because let me tell you one thing that I didn't learn until I got to Chicago. Being Puerto Rican means nothing in terms of like the culture, right? Like you have to study the music. And here's what I mean by that. Like I met guys who were super white from like, I don't even know, like what, Oregon. I'm going to say something like that because I don't really know a lot about the U.S. Who were more Cuban and more Afro-Caribbean than all the people I'd ever met in my life because they could play. because they
Oh, wow.
you know, they ingested the music, right? And you know, that's like kind of like the diversity issue, like thing here in jazz, right? Like it's such an inclusive music. Anybody can play it as long as you put in the work and study the roots. So the same thing happens in Latin music. Like you hear a lot of, for example, Japan has a great culture for salsa. Like some of the salsa players are just, oh yeah, man, listen to Japanese. If you go to YouTube, search Japanese salsa, you're going to find the most hip, the most swinging bands in salsa that I've heard in a while, right? They love it.
Wow.
Or if you go to, you know, and it's just like, it just kind of transcends those boundaries, right? Just like in jazz, like you hear people in Sweden, people in all sorts of Europe and Australia, for example, you know?
Yeah.
Like you're a living example of that, right? Like it's a genre that transcends boundaries. And so does Latin music. So anybody can do this, right? Like I'm just trying to see what it means to like play this stuff, but anybody can do this. That's what I think, for sure.
Let's move on to the next question. I want you to try and think of a defining moment, like let's call it an aha moment that you had. It could be a concert that you attended or something that you realized on the instrument. Like what was a life-changing experience that you can describe?
Miguel Senon, for me, one of the best alto saxophone players in jazz right now, Puerto Rican. And he does this event in Puerto Rico, or used to do this event called Caravana Cultural. He would bring jazz of the highest level to the most remote parts of the island. And I think it was back in 2015, 2016, one of those days, he brought in Julian Lage, Scott Colley, I don't remember who was on. I think it might have been Eric Harland or something like that, right? On the drums, like some really great drummer. And then Miguel. And they were doing the music of Sonny Rollins in this like super remote barn that you would never expect jazz to be there. And I remember seeing the ad and, you know, we were like, let me go there. And because you got to understand, Puerto Ricans don't get this type of exposure to music. Yeah. Right? Like it doesn't happen. It's not like in New York.
I remember you saying.
Yeah. At New York, everybody gets this music all the time. Like, it's so rare to see that in Puerto Rico. So, as, you know, a young jazz student, I was like, this is going to be the concert of the year for me. And, boy, it was definitely the concert. For me, that was just like, I did not know music could get at such a level, you know? Because it's one thing to see the videos, but when you're seeing these guys live, just at the utmost peak of their creativity, it is just mind-boggling. And for me, it was life-changing, right? Seeing Julian there's a famous YouTube video. I think my friend that once was sitting next to me recorded it. He was doing a solo on San Thomas, right?
Okay.
And he just kind of created this. I remember the first line. It was like Miguel had just finished this incredible solo.
Yeah.
And it was all the inside, and then he was just doing. Right. He started with that line, and for me, it was like, yeah. Melody will always be, you know, will always be the most important resource. And that was just, right? Why today, 2025, I still talk about the beginning of Julian Lage's solo and not the ending of Miguel Senon's solo, right? But they were both incredible solos. And Miguel is is super lyrical, right? But that moment as a guitarist, maybe that's why, because I'm a guitarist, I'm biased. I heard that, and then it was just like, that's it. That's the goal, you know? And that's definitely got to be one of the best ones I had, for sure. Really changed my perspective.
All right, now we're going to do the rapid fire questions. I just want to get your first response as quick as it comes to mind. Are you ready?
All right, I'll try.
All right, here we go. Desert Island picks. If you could take 5 albums with you, which ones are you going to take?
Ooh, okay. Like Minds by Gary Burton. That's Gary Burton, Pat Metheny, Roy Haynes, Chick Corea, and Dave Holland. What a freaking album.
Oh, my God.
Past, Present, Futures by Chick Corea Trio, Avishai Cohen, Jeff Ballard. Definitely taking the incredible jazz guitar of Wes Montgomery. That is my soul album.
Hell yeah.
Also, The Way Up by Pat Metheny. Those two inspired me to play jazz. If I had to pick one more, man, I'd definitely take World's Fair, Julian Lage, just the solo guitar album. Because you have all this intense music. You need something to relax to in the desert, right? You know, just something to be chill.
Yeah, some variety.
Yeah.
Dream collaboration, alive or dead, who would you want to play with?
Oh, man. It would have been such an honor to share the stage with McCoy Tyner. Just kind of like being next to that energy, right? Or Bill Evans, man. I'm a huge piano nerd. Like, I love piano.
Next, favorite composer.
That's a tricky one. It's rapid fire. I can't think about it too much. Okay, sorry, Chick Corea, man. Chick
Corea? Okay.
Yeah, favorite
Love
composer.
It. Favorite improviser.
Chris Potter.
Good choice. Here's a practical one. If you can demo this, your favorite thing to play on an altered dominant chord.
Oh, yeah. I love this. It's more of so I have this. It's this. I love that lick.
Ooh. I love that.
Just it keeps. This is my second.
Yeah, the minor third stuff.
Yeah. But then that's freaking great.
Yep. Final rapid fire. Favorite piece of advice from a teacher or a mentor?
My favorite musical piece of advice was Chick Corea's. You can tell I'm obsessed with him, right? The 16 cheap but good advice. I think it was advice number 12 or number 10. It says contrast. Always think about contrast. Yeah, play high, play low, play fast, play slow, play dense, play sparse, play a lot of notes, leave space, right? Play loud, play soft. That if you can balance contrast and harness that power like the infinity stones in your hand, you will be the greatest storyteller you can ever be. I think so.
I love that. That's amazing.
That's Chick's
awesome.
advice, man.
Yeah. So that brings us to the end. For the listeners, what's next for you musically speaking? What can they look out for in the near future?
Well, as we spoiled here on the podcast, the first person to ever kind of hear about this news, I recorded a new album. It's going to be called Equilibrio, which is equilibrium, and it's coming out in March. We're doing the official release concert in Chicago, March 21st, 2026, at the Puerto Rican Arts Alliance. From there, we're going to continue the world tour, but that is the next project. And I am working on some secret collaborations outside of my genre to, challenge myself as well. So one thing you might be hearing soon is a Richard Peña tune with Spanish rappers and hip hop.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
that's
really wanted
awesome.
to get out and challenge myself for a bit.
Thank you so much for sharing your time and your music and your insights today. And thank you everyone for listening. This has been Good Company. I'm Quentin Angus, and I'll see you next time.
Cool.